bright future. Every student matters.
Welcome back to the class, guys. Hi to everyone. So this class we are going to look at chapter 10 of your geography section, and the title of this chapter is called Four Realms of the Earth. So by realms it means four major components or elements of the earth. Okay, now earth, you know, the planet earth, where human beings, animals, plants grow, live together, right? So when we talk about planet earth, let's talk a little bit about it. Alright, so when we talk about planet earth and when we understand it, we know that out of all the other planets in the universe, planet earth is the only planet where life is sustained, where human beings live, people live, animals live, they thrive, plants and trees grow, diverse species of plants and animals and insects grow alongside microorganisms, right? So now it allows us to think, that makes us think, the very fact that why out of all the planets, only on Earth the life is sustained. How is that possible? How does it happen? Okay, so there are various components, there are various elements which are present on planet Earth, and that helps sustain life on planet Earth. Okay, so in this lesson we are going to look at those important components which help or which works together to make sure that plants, animals, human beings, insects, all living organisms, they live, okay, they survive, they have a long life. So all that happens with the help of these components. All right. Now there are four main components or four main spheres which are very important for the sustenance of life in planet Earth. Okay, so they are: number one, lithosphere; number two, atmosphere; number three, hydrosphere; and number four, or the final component, is biosphere. Okay, now we'll look at each of this component one by one in detail and understand how it helps sustain life on planet Earth. So the first component that we are going to look at is lithosphere. So when we come across lithosphere, the word lithosphere, then you have to think of land. Okay, so everything, the surface, the land, the ground, that is lithosphere. So lithosphere, what is it? How to define lithosphere? So lithosphere is basically the solid outer crust of the earth. So if this is the earth, the solid outer crust of the earth is called lithosphere. Now this outer crust, it consists of both rocks and minerals. Okay, rocks and minerals are very valuable resources for us. Now the term lithosphere, in that the word litho, okay, means rock. All right, so from there the entire meaning of how it refers to, or it means the outer crust of the earth where minerals and rocks consist, or where we find minerals and rocks. So here is an image of the inside or the interior of earth. If you take a slice, okay, if this is an earth, if you take a slice of it, like this slice, all right, if you take a slice, and this is how it looks, all right, and on the outside is the land, where there are mountains, there are oceans, there are seas, rivers, roads, etc. Right? But inside of it, you get into the interior of the earth. So these are the interior or the layers of the earth. So you see, the crust is the outer part of the earth's surface. Inside of it, if you go, then there are various layers which leads you to the core, to the inner core, okay, which is the deepest end of or deepest point of the interior of the Earth's surface. So on the outer side, the lithosphere is the crust. This is the lithosphere, and beneath the crust or the lithosphere is the upper mantle, and then comes the mantle, then outer core, and finally the inner core. The more inside or deep inside the Earth's interior you go, the hotter it is, the warmer it is, the temperature keeps on increasing. Okay, so this is to help us understand where the crust, the lithosphere that we are talking about, where we can find rocks and minerals, are located. Okay, now the Earth's surface is divided into two main divisions, and they are number one, continents, and number two, oceans. Okay, and we'll look at what continents are and oceans are. But of course we all know what oceans are, right? Large mass of water. So in this map, this is a map of the world, and this map you can see both the land and the ocean, right? So the blue areas of the map are the ocean. These areas are oceans. Okay, and the colored ones, the green, pink, purple, brown, orange, cream, off-white, all these are the continents. They are the land mass. Okay, so the Earth's crust or the Earth's surface is divided into continents and oceans. All right. Now when we look at the oceans, in the oceans, the seawater level, the level of the seawater is same everywhere. We know that how the ocean spreads across the continents, around the planet, right, around the Earth, but the sea level is same everywhere. No place, no region has higher sea level than the other. The sea level for all the ocean and the sea, they are same. But when we come to the continents, the land mass, okay, where there is no water, the countries, all right, where we live, now those countries or those land masses, there the height of the land is not same everywhere. Okay, some of the areas have higher altitude, some are plain, okay, and some have little higher altitude, some have a little bit higher than this area. So these are the heights, okay, and the land does not have same height throughout the planet. Okay, the heights vary. Some are tall, some are medium, some are very short, etc. So if we look at the land mass, then the highest peak is Mount Everest. Okay, and it is 8,848 meters, okay, tall. And the deepest point is Mariana Trench, which is in the Pacific Ocean, and this is 11,022 meters deep. All right. Now, why is the Earth's surface important? How is it important? What does it do? So let's look at the significance or the importance of lithosphere. Now we know lithosphere contains different types of rocks and minerals which are valuable to us. Okay, so the rocks and minerals which are found on the Earth's surface or Earth's crust is used by us in different ways. In the factories, in building houses, in building roads, in building buildings, etc. Okay. Now the soil which is found on the Earth's crust, that is also very important. Okay, why? Because that is where we use that is the very important element required for the cultivation or the growth of plants. Okay, so plants, trees, crops, vegetables, fruits, all of it grows on soil. So soil is very important for the growth of plants, vegetables, crops, etc. Okay, so this is why, because how lithosphere provides us with rocks, minerals and soil, very important for our sustenance, for our livelihood. This is why lithosphere is very important to us. Okay, now let's look at continents. All right. Now continents are large land masses. Okay, they are huge tract of land. Now in the world, in the earth, okay, in our planet, there are 7 continents. Okay, there are 7 large land masses. Now they are Asia, Africa, North America, South America, Antarctica, Europe and Australia. So these are 7 large land masses that are there in planet Earth. Okay. Now most of the large land mass, or most of the continents, most of the area of these 7 continents, they are located in the northern hemisphere. Now what is the northern hemisphere? The Earth is divided into 2 by a straight line at the center called equator. Now the northern side of the earth, okay, from the equator, so this north and south, the northern part is called northern hemisphere, and the southern part is called the southern hemisphere. Okay, so the northern and southern hemispheres are 2, northern part and southern part of the planet Earth. Okay, so most of the continents, or the land mass of the area of the 7 continents, they lie, or they're located in the northern hemisphere. Okay, out of all the continents, Asia is the largest of the all continents. Okay, Asia is the largest continent. Now Asia is separated from Europe by Ural Mountains. Okay, so Asia lies adjacent or next to Europe, another continent called Europe. The separation between the two is done by the Ural Mountains. Okay, but if we put Europe and Asia together, if we merge Asia and Europe, then the landmass, the merged landmass of Europe and Asia is called Eurasia. Okay. Now let's look at Africa. Africa is the second largest continent among all other 7 continents. Okay, Asia is the largest, second largest is Africa. Now Africa is separated from Asia by Suez Canal. Okay, so Suez Canal is in between, which separates Africa from Asia. Okay, now North America. North America is the 3rd largest continent in the world. It occupies nearly 1/5 of the Earth's land, okay, or land mass. So North America is quite big. Now let's look at South America. South America is the 4th largest continent, okay, and it's separated from North America by Panama Canal. There's a canal in between North and South America, and that separates North America from South America. The next continent is called Antarctica. Now Antarctica, the landmass, the area which is occupied by the continent of Antarctica is as big as the area when we put Australia and Europe, these 2 continents together. Then the area which is thus formed, that area is equal to the area which Antarctica occupies. Okay. Now at the center of Antarctica is South Pole. All right. Now because Antarctica is the continent which is covered with snow for the whole year, that is why it is called the White Continent. Okay, because snow covers the area for the entire year. Okay. Now Europe is another continent which is adjacent to Asia. We have already mentioned this, right? That Europe lies next to Asia. Okay, Australia is the continent which is the smallest of all the continents in the world, and Australia is surrounded by water in all its sides. So because of that very reason, it is also known as island continent. It is an island, but because it's a continent, it is also known as island continent. Okay. Now, so these were some of the major or the 7 continents. Okay. Now let's look at the major landforms. Now we are looking at lithosphere. We are trying to understand lithosphere. In the lithosphere, we said how there are continents. The Earth's surface is divided into continents and oceans. Now, continents are large tract of landmass. Now, in these land masses, there are major landforms. Like what? Like mountains, plateaus, plains, etc. Desert, etc. Okay, so let's look at these major land masses, landforms which exist in the continents. So let's look at the mountains first. So mountains are vast landmass that rises above the surrounding area. So it is not plain landmass. It is actually landmass which rises above the surrounding area. So the height of it is greater than the surrounding areas. All right. Now the mountains have steep sides and high peaks. So a mountain has high peaks and it has steep sides. So these are steep sides. All right. It rises above the sea level at a height of about 900 meter. Okay. So it rises above the height of 900 meter. Now many times or sometimes some of the mountains are single. They stand alone. Okay. And there are no mountains with them. Okay. They don't have friends with them. But many times the mountains, they are formed together with other mountains. So the formation of the mountains, many mountains together, that leads to something called a range. So we call it mountain range. Okay, because there is not a single mountain, but many mountains together forms like a series of mountain. That is called a range. Okay, so some of the examples for mountain ranges are the Himalayan mountain range in Asia, the Rockies in North America, the Andes in South America, and Alps in Europe. Now these mountain ranges, some of them are old, some of them are quite young. Okay, so the example or the best example of young mountain range is the Himalayas, and the old mountain range is the Aravalli range in India. Okay. Now mountains are very essential or very important source of water. From mountains we get water. Mountains have ice and these ice melt and they flow slowly and gradually into rivers, and that rivers from those rivers we get water. Okay, so the mountains and the rivers that flows through it, those water is used for irrigation and also for the production of hydroelectricity, which helps us light our houses, which helps run our industries, factories, etc. Okay, and these mountains or the mountain ranges that we just talk about, like the Himalayan range, the Andes, Rockies, etc., they also have glaciers. Glaciers are basically moving ice. Okay, so the ice, they flow very slowly. Okay, the ice that gets accumulated in the mountains, they also flow, and through that the water also can be taken. Okay, from that it then joins the river, or it leads to the formation of river, and from that water, from that river we get more water. Now glaciers that way are also very important. One of the very good example for glaciers in Indian context is the Siachen in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, Siachen is in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, apart from being an essential source of water, mountains are also very rich in flora and fauna. Flora means the vegetation, plants and trees, and animals as well, or wildlife. Okay. Now, apart from this, the mountains are also very attractive, and it is also a very pleasant place. Because of that, it also acts as a rich resource for tourism, and tourists seasonally throughout the year, they travel to the mountain ranges, to the mountain areas to see the beauty of the nature, the scenic beauty of the nature, of the mountains, of the hills, of the villages which are there in the mountains, etc. Okay, so mountains thus form very important part of the lithosphere. Now, next kind of landform that we are going to look at is called plateaus. Now, what is plateau, or what are plateaus? Plateaus are again landmass, but they are elevated, not as elevated or tall as the mountains. They are just little elevated, and they are flat at the top with steep sides. Okay, so they are flat at the top with steep sides. Okay, because of how they are flat at the top and with steep sides, they're also called tableland, because look, they look like a table. Okay, now just like the mountains, these plateaus can also be old as well as new. So there are old plateaus and there are new plateaus as well. Now, the peninsular part of India, right, our country, in the peninsular part, that part is a plateau. Okay, there are two important plateaus that are existent, or that exist, or that are present in the peninsular part of India. They are Malwa Plateau, Deccan Plateau. Okay, so these are two important plateaus. The peninsular part itself is a big plateau region, and that plateau region is divided into two. One is called Malwa, the other is called Deccan Plateau. Now, Tibetan Plateau, which is in the in Asia, okay, in the continent of Asia, that Tibetan Plateau is the highest plateau in the world. Okay, that has the highest that has elevation which is highest among all the plateaus that are in the world. Okay, because of being the highest plateau in the world, the Tibetan Plateau is also known as the roof of the world. Okay, now plateaus generally are very rich in mineral deposits. Here we find minerals. Okay, and because of this reason, many mines are located in the plateau regions. Okay, so in the Chotanagpur Plateau of our country, we find manganese, coal and mica, apart from other rich minerals. Okay, the African Plateau, which is in Africa, that plateau is very rich in gold and diamond, and hence these regions have many and several gold and diamond mines. Okay, the next kind of landform that we are going to look at is plains, the plain area. So plains are basically large stretches of flat land. These are flat land. There is no elevation, there is no height. Okay, so they are just about 200 meters above the sea level. Okay, they are extremely flat. Sometimes they are rolling and undulating. Okay, and they are formed as a result of the silts, mud carried by rivers and their tributaries. Okay, so what we have to understand about the formation of the plains is that when the river flows from the mountains, through the mountains, as the river flows, okay, it carries rocks, it carries pebbles, it carries silt, it carries soil, it carries land. Now, as they flow and reach the large stretches of flat land, and there it starts to deposit. it starts to deposit all that the river and its tributaries and its tributary rivers have carried on the banks, on the areas lying next to the bank. Okay, so that forms the plain areas. Now, because of this very reason as to how the rivers, they carry the silt, the soil, the sand as they flow through the mountains, through the plateaus and arrive at flat areas, these soils in the flat regions or the flat land, they are very fertile. Okay, they're extremely fertile. Okay, now plains also provide an extremely easy land form, okay, land form for the construction of roadways and railways. You can construct roads and railways in the mountains, in the plateaus as well. Okay, but it's not as easy as it is in the construction of roads and railways in the plains. In mountains and plateaus, it's very difficult. Okay, most difficult in the mountains, but in the plains, it's very easy. Okay, so because of the very fact that how the plain areas are very fertile, and fertile means it yields very good agricultural produce, or the agricultural production in the plain area is very good. Okay, because of that reason, the plain areas or the plain regions in the world are thickly populated. Most of the people migrate to the plain areas to cultivate the land, grow crops, or to settle there. Okay, some of the examples of the plains are the Great Northern Plain in India, the Huanghe Plain in China, and the Nile Valley Plain in Egypt.